The research ship New Horizon drifted through space like a metal whale in an ocean of stars. Dr. Marcus Kane pressed his face against the observation window and watched the planet below turn slowly. Kepler 442c looked peaceful from up here. Blue oceans, white clouds, and green patches that might be forests. It reminded him of Earth, but smaller. The atmospheric readings are coming in, Dr. Lisa Harper called from her workstation. Her fingers danced across the holographic display, pulling up charts and numbers that meant everything to a scientist and nothing to most people. This is interesting, Marcus, very interesting. Marcus turned away from the window and walked over to her station. Lisa had been his research partner for 3 years now. She was brilliant with numbers and could spot patterns that other people missed. If she said something was interesting, it usually meant they had found something important. "What have you got?" he asked, looking at the swirling data on her screen. Lisa pointed to a series of green bars on her display. "The oxygen levels are perfect, not just good, but perfect. 21%. Just like home. The gravity is 0.98 Earth standard. The atmospheric pressure is almost exactly what we breathe every day." Marcus frowned. "That sounds too good to be true. What about radiation levels?" Lisa tapped another section of her screen. "Here's where it gets weird. The radiation exposure down there is about half what you'd get on a commercial flight back home. The temperature ranges from 15 to 25 degrees Celsius. No extreme weather patterns. No volcanic activity. No dangerous wildlife detected. So what's the problem?" Marcus asked. "There's no problem," Lisa said, turning to face him. "That's the problem. According to the Galactic Council's classification system, this planet should be a paradise world. Class habitable. Perfect for colonization by any species in the galaxy." Marcus sat down in the chair next to her. "But our mission briefing said we were looking for planets suitable for human settlement under the Deathworld protocols." "Exactly." Lisa pulled up another screen, this one showing the official council database. "Look at this. Paradise worlds are classified as having gravity between 0.4 and 0.6 Earth standard. Radiation levels below what this planet has. Temperature variations no greater than 10 degrees. Marcus studied the data. Something was wrong here, very wrong. "Lisa, pull up the environmental data for some of these paradise worlds." Lisa's fingers flew across the controls. Planet after planet appeared on the screen. Zephyr Prime, a class A. Paradise world inhabited by the Xenorons. Gravity, 0.47 Earth standard. Radiation, practically zero. Temperature, constant 22 degrees with no variation. "Good Lord," Marcus whispered. "The Xenorons live on a planet with half Earth's gravity and no radiation at all. What about the others?" More planets appeared. The Mardaki homeworld had gravity so low that a human would need weights just to walk normally. The Kaleri lived on a world where the slightest temperature change would require climate suits. Planet after planet showed the same pattern. Every species in the galaxy lived on worlds that humans would consider incredibly gentle. "Marcus," Lisa said quietly, "what does this make Earth?" Marcus stood up and walked back to the window. Down below, Kepler 442c continued its slow rotation. A world that was too dangerous for galactic civilization, but would be considered a pleasant vacation spot by human standards. "It makes Earth a nightmare," he said finally. "At least by their standards." Lisa joined him at the window. "Think about it. Earth has gravity that's twice the galactic average. We have radiation from space, from the ground, from our own sun. Our weather systems are so violent that we name our storms and track them like enemies. We have earthquakes that can level cities, volcanoes that can change the climate, and we call it home." Marcus thought about his childhood in Colorado, playing outside in weather that could change 30 degrees in a single day, hiking in mountains where the air was thin and the sun was harsh, swimming in lakes that were so cold they could stop your heart if you weren't careful. All of it had seemed normal to him, fun, even. "We need to run a full comparison," he said. "Earth versus every planet in the Council database. I want to see exactly where we stand." They worked through the night, pulling data from hundreds of worlds. The results were stunning. Earth's gravity was higher than 87% of inhabited worlds. Earth's radiation levels exceeded the safe limits for most species by factors of 10 or more. Earth's weather patterns were so extreme that they would be classified as catastrophic on most worlds. "Look at this," Lisa said, pointing to a chart. "The Kalori homeworld is considered challenging because their seasons change the temperature by 5 degrees. 5 degrees, Marcus. On Earth, that's the difference between a cool morning and a warm afternoon." Marcus pulled up Earth's classification in the Council database. Class X Deathworld. Unsuitable for habitation by standard galactic life forms. Environmental hazards include extreme gravity, dangerous radiation levels, catastrophic weather systems, seismic instability, and biological hazards. "Biological hazards," he read aloud. "What biological hazards?" Lisa searched through the files. Here it is. The initial survey report from 15 years ago. Most of it is classified, but there are some notes. The survey team reported hostile life forms of unprecedented aggression and adaptability. They lost 3 crew members before completing their assessment. Hostile life forms? Marcus laughed, but it wasn't a happy sound. What did they run into? Bears? Sharks? Poison ivy? "Maybe all of the above," Lisa said. "From their perspective, even a house cat might seem like a monster. Think about it. These people come from worlds where the most dangerous creature is probably something like a butterfly. Then they land on Earth and encounter animals that have evolved to survive in what they consider hell." Marcus sat down heavily. The implications were staggering. "Lisa, if Earth is too dangerous for them to visit safely, what does that make us?" "It makes us the most dangerous species in the galaxy," she said quietly. "We're not just adapted to survive on a death world. We're adapted to thrive on it. We're stronger, tougher, and more resilient than anything they've ever encountered." A soft chime echoed through the ship. Marcus and Lisa looked at each other. That was the sound of an incoming priority message from Earth. Marcus activated the communication system. The face of Admiral Janet Ross appeared on the screen. She looked worried. "New Horizon, this is Earth Defense Command. You are ordered to return to Earth immediately. Do not acknowledge this transmission on any open channels. Maintain radio silence until you reach the Sol system." The transmission ended abruptly. Marcus and Lisa stared at the blank screen. "What do you think that was about?" Lisa asked. Marcus felt a chill run down his spine. "I think someone else has figured out what we just figured out." Lisa began shutting down her workstation. "The question is, who? And what are they planning to do about it?" Marcus watched Kepler 442c disappear from the window as the New Horizon changed course. The planet that had seemed so peaceful now felt like a symbol of everything they had discovered. A world that was perfectly safe for humans, but too dangerous for the rest of the galaxy. "We need to be careful," he said. "If we're right about this, if humans really are as dangerous as our data suggests, then we might be walking into something bigger than we can handle." Lisa finished her shutdown procedures and joined him at the window. Space stretched out before them, filled with stars and planets and civilizations that had never faced anything like humanity. "Marcus," she said, "what if they're not afraid of what we might do? What if they're afraid of what we've already done, just by existing?" The New Horizon turned toward home, carrying with it data that would change everything. Behind them, Kepler 442c continued its rotation, a perfect world that no one in the galaxy would dare to visit. No one except humans. And that, Marcus realized, was exactly the point. The New Horizon docked at Earth's orbital research station 3 days after receiving the emergency recall. Marcus and Lisa gathered their data files and headed for the airlock, but something felt wrong the moment they stepped onto the station. Usually, the research platform buzzed with quiet activity. Scientists moved between labs, discussing their work in hushed tones. Today, the corridors were filled with people talking loudly, arguing, and looking worried. Dr. Nathan Cross met them at the docking bay. He was the head of Earth's xenobiology department and had worked with alien life forms longer than anyone else on the station. His gray hair was messier than usual, and his eyes had the look of someone who hadn't slept in days. "Thank God you're back," Nathan said, grabbing their equipment bags. "We need to talk. Now my lab is secure." They followed him through the station's winding corridors. Other scientists stopped their conversations when they passed, watching them with expressions that ranged from curious to fearful. Marcus felt like he was walking through a hospital where everyone knew something terrible was about to happen. Nathan's lab was located in the station's most secure section. He sealed the door behind them and activated a device that would block any listening equipment. The walls hummed softly as the privacy shield engaged. "What's going on, Nathan?" Lisa asked. "The whole station feels like it's about to explode." Nathan sat down at his desk and rubbed his face with both hands. The Galactic Council announced a routine inspection of Earth's environmental systems. They're sending a fleet of ships to study why Earth is classified as a death world. Marcus and Lisa exchanged glances. "When?" Marcus asked. "They're already here," Nathan said. "Arrived yesterday, but here's the thing. In 15 years of human membership in the Council, they've never done a routine inspection of anybody. Not once, and they certainly don't send 12 ships for routine work." Lisa set down her datapad. "Nathan, we discovered something on our mission. Something that might explain why they're here." Nathan leaned forward. "Tell me, for the next hour." Marcus and Lisa explained what they had found on Kepler 442c. They showed Nathan the data comparing Earth to paradise worlds throughout the galaxy. They explained how human-friendly environments were considered deadly by galactic standards. Nathan listened, without interrupting. When they finished, he was quiet for a long time. "I was afraid of this," he said finally. "We've been getting reports from human colonies for months. Strange reactions from alien visitors. Diplomatic incidents over environmental conditions. I started to suspect that something was wrong with our classification, but I never imagined it was this extreme." Marcus pulled up his analysis on the lab's main screen. "Nathan, we need to run a complete comparison. Earth versus every inhabited world in the Council database. We need to see exactly how different we are." Nathan nodded. "I've been preparing for something like this. I have access to the full galactic database through my xenobiology clearance. But if we do this, if we confirm what you've found, there's no going back. This information will change everything." "It already has changed everything," Lisa said. "The question is whether we're going to understand it or let someone else control what happens next." They worked for 18 hours straight. Nathan's lab became a command center, with data streaming across multiple screens. They pulled environmental information for all 847 inhabited worlds in the Council database. They compared gravity, atmospheric pressure, radiation levels, temperature ranges, weather patterns, and geological activity. The results were even more shocking than Marcus and Lisa had first discovered. Earth's gravity was 2.3 times the galactic average. Most Council species had evolved on worlds where gravity was so light that humans would need to wear weights to walk normally. A human child playing in a playground was experiencing more gravitational stress than most alien athletes during peak performance. Earth's atmospheric pressure was 4.1 times what most species considered normal. The pressure that humans breathed every day would crush the lungs of most galactic citizens. Even Earth's mountains, where the air was thinner, had more Pressure than many species could survive. Earth's temperature variations were beyond anything in the database. The difference between winter and summer on most worlds was less than the difference between morning and afternoon on Earth. A typical spring day on Earth, with temperatures ranging from cool morning to warm afternoon, would require most alien species to use advanced climate suits, but the radiation data was the most frightening. Earth's natural radiation levels were 12 times higher than what the Council considered safe for long-term exposure. The radiation that humans absorbed just from living on Earth's surface would kill most galactic species within months. "Look at this," Nathan said, pointing to a comparison chart. "The Zentorons consider their world dangerous because they get occasional solar flares that increase radiation by tiny amounts. Those solar flares produce less radiation than humans get from eating bananas." Lisa laughed, but it was a shocked sound. "Bananas are radioactive?" "Everything on Earth is radioactive compared to the rest of the galaxy," Nathan explained. "Our food, our air, our water, even our bodies. We're walking radiation sources by their standards." Marcus pulled up the geological data. "It gets worse. Earth's seismic activity exceeds the dangerous classification by 800%. We have earthquakes that would register as planet-killing disasters on most worlds. Our volcanoes produce more energy in a single eruption than most species have ever seen in their entire planetary history. And we build cities next to them," Lisa added quietly. "We surf tsunamis. We climb mountains during blizzards. We run marathons in deserts." Nathan stood up and walked to the window that looked out over Earth. The planet hung below them, blue and white and beautiful. From space, it looked peaceful, but now they knew the truth. Earth was a hell world by galactic standards, and humans were the demons who lived there. "There's something else," Nathan said. "I've been reviewing the original survey reports from when Earth was first classified. Most of the file is classified, but I found some interesting details." He activated another screen. The Council survey team that first visited Earth 15 years ago was composed of 12 specialists from 6 different species. They came to evaluate Earth for potential membership in the Council. Marcus and Lisa moved closer to read the report. 3 team members died during the initial landing, Nathan read. 2 from exposure to atmospheric conditions. 1 from what the report calls biological contamination. The surviving team members required constant life support and were unable to remain on the surface for more than 4 hours at a time. Biological contamination? Lisa asked. Nathan scrolled down to another section. The report mentions aggressive native life forms. It sounds like they encountered some of Earth's wildlife and didn't handle it well. Marcus thought about the wildlife around his childhood home in Colorado. Bears, mountain lions, rattlesnakes, even aggressive squirrels. To alien visitors from gentle paradise worlds, Earth's animals would seem like monsters from a nightmare. The report concludes that Earth is unsuitable for standard galactic life, but notes that the native species shows remarkable adaptability. Nathan continued. It recommends immediate Class X classification and suggests that the native population be studied for potential military applications. Military applications? Marcus felt a chill. Think about it, Nathan said. We're not just adapted to survive on a death world. We're thriving on it. We've built a global civilization on a planet that kills alien visitors just by existing. From their perspective, we're not just tough, we're weapons. Before anyone could respond, an alarm chimed through the station's communication system. Nathan activated the main display, and the face of Admiral Ross appeared on the screen. All senior research staff report to Conference Room Alpha immediately, she announced. We have visitors. Nathan deactivated the privacy shield and opened the lab door. That's our cue, he said. Time to meet the inspection team. As they walked through the station corridors, Marcus noticed that the other scientists had gone quiet. Everyone was moving toward the conference room, but nobody was talking. The atmosphere felt like a school where everyone was about to take a test they weren't prepared for. "Nathan," Lisa said quietly, "what do you think they want?" Nathan paused. At the conference room door. Through the window, they could see figures in environmental suits sitting around the meeting table. The suits were bulky and covered in sensors, the kind of equipment used for exploring hostile environments. "I think they want to know if we're as dangerous as their data suggests," Nathan said. "And I think they're about to find out that we're worse." He opened the door, and they stepped inside to meet the aliens who were afraid of the world that humans called home. The conference room fell silent as Marcus, Lisa, and Nathan entered. Around the oval table sat 5 figures in bulky environmental suits. The suits were white and covered with blinking sensors, tubes, and filters. Each alien looked like they were preparing to walk on the surface of a toxic planet. Admiral Ross stood at the head of the table. Her face was calm, but Marcus could see tension in her shoulders. "Dr. Kane, Dr. Harper, Dr. Cross, please take your seats. I'd like you to meet Ambassador Veltar of the Zentoran Council." One of the suited figures raised a gloved hand. When he spoke, his voice came through a translator that made him sound robotic. "Greetings, human researchers. We appreciate your cooperation in this matter." Marcus sat down across from the ambassador. Up close, he could see Veltar's face through the helmet's thick glass. The alien looked human-like, but his skin was pale blue and his eyes were larger than normal. More importantly, he looked terrified. "Ambassador," Lisa said, "may I ask why you're wearing environmental suits? This station maintains Earth-normal atmosphere, but it's actually safer than most of our planet." Veltar glanced at his companions. Before answering, "Dr. Harper, what you consider safe, we consider extremely hazardous. The atmospheric pressure in this room would crush the lungs of an unprotected Zenturan within minutes. The radiation levels, even this far from your planet's surface, exceed our safety limits by factors we prefer not to discuss." Nathan leaned forward. "Ambassador, we've been analyzing the environmental data from your worlds. We'd like to understand why Earth was classified so differently from the rest of the galaxy." "That is precisely why we are here," Veltar said. Another alarm chimed, and he looked toward the door with what appeared to be fear. "If you will excuse me, our senior counselor has arrived." The door opened, and Admiral Ross stepped aside as another figure entered. This alien was taller than the others and wore a suit that looked even more advanced. Gold patterns covered the white material, and the helmet was larger, with multiple viewing ports. "May I present High Counselor Zefkri of the Monarchy, Admiral." Ross announced. The newcomer moved slowly to the head of the table. When he sat down, Marcus noticed that his chair had been specially modified with extra cushioning and support systems. Through his helmet, Zefkri appeared ancient. His skin was gray and wrinkled, and his movements were careful and deliberate. "Humans," Zefkri said, his translated voice carrying the weight of years, "we must speak truthfully with each other. The time for diplomatic pleasantries has passed." Lisa glanced at Marcus. "Counselor, we welcome honest discussion. We've made some discoveries that we believe are relevant to this meeting." "Show them," Admiral Ross said quietly. Nathan activated the room's display system. Charts and graphs filled the walls, showing the comparison between Earth and the hundreds of other worlds in the Council database. The alien visitors grew still as the data appeared around them. Zefkri studied the information for several minutes. "You have been thorough," he said finally. "How long have you known?" "We just figured it out," Marcus said. "The question is, how long have you known?" Zefkri was quiet for a long time. When he spoke again, his voice was heavy with something that sounded like shame. "I have lived for 3,047 of your years, Dr. Kane. I was present when the first survey team visited your world. I was present when the Council made the decision to classify Earth as a Class X death world. And I was present when we decided to hide the full truth from your species." The room went dead silent. Admiral Ross sat down slowly, her face pale. "What truth?" she asked. Zefkri gestured to the data surrounding them. "The truth that your species represents something that has never existed in our recorded history. In 50,000 years of galactic civilization, we have cataloged life on over 10,000 worlds. Never, in all that time, have we encountered a species that evolved under such extreme conditions." Veltar shifted uncomfortably in his chair. "High Counselor, perhaps we should explain the context." "Yes," Zefkri agreed. "Dr. Cross, you asked about the original survey team. 12 specialists from 6 species, all experienced in hostile environment exploration. They landed on your world wearing the most advanced protective equipment we possessed." Nathan waited for him to continue. 3 died within the first day, Zefkri said. 2 from atmospheric exposure when their suits failed. 1 from what your people would call a minor allergic reaction to plant pollen. The survivors required constant medical support and were unable to remain on the surface for more than a few hours at a time. Marcus thought about his morning jogs through the Colorado mountains, breathing pine-scented air that could kill alien visitors. "But that was not the worst part," Zefkri continued. "The worst part was meeting your people." Lisa frowned. "What do you mean?" Veltar answered this time. "Dr. Harper, the survey team encountered a group of human children playing in what you call a playground. These children were engaging in activities that would require our strongest military personnel to undergo months of conditioning. They were climbing structures in gravity that would crush most of our soldiers. They were running and laughing in atmospheric conditions that would kill our athletes. And they were doing it without any protective equipment at all." "Just playing," Marcus said quietly. "Just playing," Zefkri confirmed. "The team also observed human adults engaged in what you call recreational activities. Rock climbing in conditions that would be considered torture on most worlds. Swimming in water temperatures that would cause immediate shock in most species. Running long distances in heat that would be classified as deadly." Nathan pulled up another chart. "Counselor, our research shows that average human physical capabilities exceed the maximum performance of most galactic species." "Is that accurate?" "More than you know," Zefkri said. "A human child at play operates at stress levels that would hospitalize our elite soldiers. An average human adult could survive unprotected on worlds that we consider uninhabitable. Your elderly and disabled citizens live comfortably in environments that would kill healthy members of most species within hours." Admiral Ross leaned back in her chair. "So you were afraid of us?" "Terrified," Veltar admitted. "Dr. Ross, your species represents something we had no framework to understand. In our galaxy, strength and environmental resistance come from technology. We build suits and ships and habitats to protect us from hostile conditions, but you evolved to be the hostile conditions." Zefkri activated his own display, showing images of various galactic species. "The average Zentaran cannot survive gravity above 0.5 Earth standard. The Kalari require climate suits if the temperature varies by more than 3 degrees. The Mordaki, my own people, cannot tolerate radiation levels above what you would experience from a wristwatch." Marcus stared at the images. These were the species that controlled galactic civilization, and they looked fragile compared to humans. Not just physically, but in every way that mattered for survival. "But why hide this from us?" Lisa asked. "Why classify Earth as a death world instead of explaining the situation?" Zefkri and Veltar exchanged glances. "Because we were not certain what you would do with the knowledge," Zefkri said. "Dr. Harper, your species had just developed space travel. You were new to galactic civilization. If you learned that you were physically superior to every other species in the galaxy, how Do you think you would have reacted? The question hung in the air. Marcus thought about human history, about how his species had treated each other when they thought they were superior. Wars, conquests, slavery, genocide. The list was long and ugly. You thought we would conquer the galaxy, Nathan said. The possibility occurred to us, Veltar admitted, but there was another concern. Our entire galactic economy is built around environmental protection and life support technology. 90% of our industrial capacity is devoted to creating safe environments for our citizens. If humanity became fully integrated into galactic society, if our people saw that safety was possible without technology, it would destroy the foundations of our civilization. Admiral Ross stood up and began pacing. So you kept us isolated. Classified us as dangerous so other species would stay away. Limited our access to galactic trade and politics. It seemed like the safest option for everyone, Zefgri said. But the situation has changed. How? Marcus asked. Zefgri was quiet for a moment. Because isolation is no longer possible. Your species has been growing, exploring, establishing colonies. Other council members have begun asking questions about why such a successful species is classified as living on a death world. Some have started to investigate your true capabilities. Veltar leaned forward. And some of those investigations have produced disturbing results. There are factions within the council who believe that humanity should be contained by force. Others believe you should be recruited as soldiers. Still others want to study you to understand how your adaptations might be replicated. Which brings us to why we are here, Zefgri said. The Council has voted to offer humanity a choice. You can remain classified as a Deathworld species, with all the limitations that entails. Or you can accept reclassification under a new category. That has never been used before. Lisa looked around the room. What kind of new category? The emergency session of Earth's Global Council had been going on for 6 hours. Marcus sat in the observation gallery, watching world leaders argue about humanity's future. Some wanted to accept the Council's offer and become the galaxy's environmental specialists. Others demanded complete independence from galactic politics. A few insisted that Earth should reveal its true capabilities and demand equal treatment. Lisa leaned over and whispered, "This is getting nowhere." "They're too busy arguing about politics to focus on the real issue," Marcus nodded. Below them, the President of the Americas was shouting at the European Chancellor about sovereignty. The Asian Federation representative was demanding more time to study the implications. Everyone had an opinion, but nobody seemed to understand what they were really dealing with. Admiral Ross stood up at the podium and raised her hand for silence. "Ladies and gentlemen, while you've been debating, our alien guests have prepared a demonstration. They want to show us exactly what they mean by calling us warrior gardeners." The room quieted down. On the main screen, Ambassador Veltar appeared from the orbital station. He still wore his environmental suit, even in the safety of the human-built facility. "Earth leaders," Veltar said through his translator, "we understand your need to see proof of our claims. High Counselor Zefgri has authorized a field test. We will take a group of human volunteers to 3 abandoned worlds that the Council has classified as uninhabitable. If your people can establish sustainable settlements on these worlds, we will proceed with the reclassification proposal." President Martinez of the Americas leaned forward. "What kind of uninhabitable are we talking about, Ambassador?" Zefgri's voice joined the transmission. "The first world is Zerian Prime. It was abandoned 300 years ago due to extreme temperature variations and crushing gravity. The second is Aqua Tertius, evacuated because of violent storm systems and excessive atmospheric pressure. The third is Vulcanus, uninhabited because of constant seismic activity and dangerous radiation levels." Marcus felt his stomach drop. These sounded like death traps, even by human standards. "However," Zefgri continued, Our analysis suggests that these worlds fall within human tolerance ranges. Zarian Prime has gravity only 20% higher than Earth. Aqua Tertius has atmospheric pressure 40% above your standard. Vulcanus has radiation levels equivalent to some areas of your planet. Lisa grabbed Marcus's arm. Did you hear that? What they consider uninhabitable sounds like a challenging camping trip. Admiral Ross stepped forward. How many volunteers would you need? 20 humans for each world, Veltar replied. Basic survival equipment only. No advanced technology beyond what your species typically uses for exploration. The debate that followed was intense but brief. In the end, 60 volunteers stepped forward from Earth's military and scientific communities. Marcus and Lisa both volunteered, along with Nathan Cross and several other researchers. Captain Jake Stone, a pilot from Earth Defense Force, signed up to lead one of the teams. 3 days later, Marcus found himself strapping into a Council transport ship, heading for Zarian Prime. The ship itself was fascinating. It was built like a mobile hospital, with life support systems that could maintain perfect environmental conditions for dozens of species. For the human passengers, it felt like riding in an ambulance when they only needed a taxi. Zarian Prime appeared on the viewscreen. As they approached, it was a brown and orange world with massive dust storms swirling across its surface. Marcus could see mountain ranges and deep valleys, but no signs of vegetation or water. Temperature on the surface ranges from -10 to 40 degrees Celsius. Announced the ship's AI. Gravity is 1.2 Earth standard. Atmospheric composition is suitable for human respiration with minor filtration. Captain Stone laughed from his seat across the aisle. -10 to 40 degrees? That's a normal winter day in Minnesota. The Council crew members wore full environmental suits just to monitor the human landing. As Marcus stepped off the transport onto Zarian Prime's surface, he was struck by how familiar it felt. The air was dry and thin, like the mountains back home. The gravity was noticeable but manageable, like wearing a heavy backpack. The temperature was cool but comfortable. Within 6 hours, the human team had established a basic camp. Within 2 days, they had found underground water sources and started building permanent shelters. By the end of the first week, they were growing food in the planet's soil and had established a communication network. The reports from Aqua Tertius were even more impressive. Lisa's team had not only survived the violent storms, but learned to use them for power generation. The high atmospheric pressure that had driven away the previous inhabitants made the humans feel energetic and alert. They described it as living at sea level after spending time in the mountains. Vulcanus proved to be the most challenging world, but Captain Stone's team adapted quickly. The constant earthquakes required flexible building techniques, but nothing humans hadn't dealt with in earthquake zones on Earth. The radiation levels were high, but still within the range that humans had lived with near natural uranium deposits. Most impressive of all, the teams didn't just survive. They thrived. Marcus's group on Zarian Prime discovered that the planet's soil was incredibly fertile once they added water. They were producing surplus food within 3 weeks. Lisa's team on Aqua Tertius learned to predict and ride the storm systems, using them for both power and transportation. Stone's team on Vulcanus found that the geological activity provided geothermal energy that could power entire cities. The Council observers were stunned. Ambassador Veltar made daily reports to the galactic government, each one more shocked than the last. The humans have not merely survived, he reported during the 3rd week. They have transformed these worlds into habitable colonies. They are discussing permanent settlement. But the real shock came when other species started paying attention to the human demonstrations. Representatives from younger Council civilizations began arriving to observe the colonies. These were species that had been restricted to their homeworlds. because they couldn't afford the massive life support systems needed for expansion. Dr. Elena Vasquez, a climatologist working on Aqua Tertius, was the first to notice the pattern. "Marcus," she said during a video call between the three worlds, "we're getting requests from alien observers who want to live here, not visit, live." Marcus looked up from the greenhouse he was building on Zarian Prime. "What do you mean?" 3. Different species have asked if they can establish settlements under human protection, Elena explained. "They're calling us environmental guardians. They want to colonize worlds they couldn't survive on their own, but they think they can manage with human help." The implications were staggering. Instead of being feared or isolated, humans were becoming the key to galactic expansion. Species that had been trapped on their gentle homeworlds for thousands of years suddenly saw the possibility of spreading to new worlds. Nathan Cross, monitoring from Earth, sent regular updates on the political situation back home. "The older council members are getting nervous," he reported. "They're seeing their entire economic model threatened. If species can colonize new worlds with human assistance instead of expensive technology, it changes everything." But the younger species were excited. They formed an unofficial alliance, quietly supporting humanity's reclassification. They wanted access to the Warrior Gardener program. They wanted human partners for colonization efforts. The breakthrough came during the 4th week, when Lisa's team on Aqua Tertius made an unexpected discovery. Deep in the planet's ocean, they found ruins. Artificial structures that were clearly the remains of an ancient civilization. "The architecture is wrong for any current council species," Lisa reported. "These structures are built to withstand extreme conditions. Whoever built them was adapted to environmental stresses similar to what humans can handle." Marcus felt a chill as he heard the news. "Lisa, how old are these ruins?" "Initial dating suggests they're at least 75,000 years old." She replied, "Maybe older." "But Marcus, that's not the strangest part. The technology we're finding suggests these people had space travel. Advanced space travel. The discovery changed everything. If there had been spacefaring species adapted to harsh environments in the galaxy's past, what had happened to them? Where had they gone? And why had the current galactic civilization developed in environments that were so much gentler than what these ancient people had lived with?" High Counselor Zephyr arrived at Aqua Tertius personally to examine the ruins. Even in his advanced environmental suit, he moved carefully through the underwater archaeological site that Lisa's team had excavated. "This confirms our oldest fears," he said quietly to Marcus during a private communication. "We suspected that the current galactic civilization was not the first. But we hoped we were wrong. What does this mean?" Marcus asked. Zephyr's ancient face was troubled behind his helmet's faceplate. "It means that humanity may not be an anomaly, Dr. Kane. It means you may be the return of something that we thought was lost forever." Before Marcus could ask what he meant, alarms began sounding across all 3 colony worlds. Long-range sensors had detected something approaching from deep space. Ships were coming. Lots of ships. The ships that emerged from deep space were like nothing Marcus had ever seen. They were dark metal constructs that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. No smooth curves or elegant designs like council vessels. These ships looked like they had been built to survive wars in the depths of space. Captain Stone's voice crackled over the communication system from Vulcanus. "I count 37 vessels of varying sizes. They're not responding to our hails, but they're not taking aggressive positions either. They're just waiting." Marcus stood in the command center on Zarian Prime, watching the sensor displays. With growing tension, High Counselor Zephyr had gone completely silent, staring at his readings like he was seeing ghosts. "Counselor," Marcus said, "you need to tell us what we're dealing with." Zephyr slowly turned his helmet toward Marcus. "Dr. Kane, I need you to understand something. The Galactic Council has existed for 50,000 years. In all that time, we have built our civilization on the assumption that we were the first, the most advanced, the builders of galactic society. Lisa's voice joined the conversation from Aqua Tertius. But the ruins we found prove that's not true. Yes, Zefgri said quietly. The ruins prove that there were others before us. Species that could survive in environments we consider deadly. Species that built technologies we don't understand. And according to our oldest records, they all disappeared about 75,000 years ago. Marcus felt a chill run down his spine. Disappeared how? We don't know, Zefgri admitted. Our ancestors found empty worlds, abandoned cities, ships drifting in space. No bodies, no signs of war, no explanation. Just silence. One of the unknown. Ships moved closer to Aqua Tertius. As it approached, Lisa's team got their first clear look at its design. This is incredible, she transmitted. The ship's hull is covered with what looks like impact damage, not battle damage. Environmental damage. Like it's been flying through asteroid fields and radiation storms for thousands of years. Captain Stone's sensors picked up movement around Vulcanus. 3 ships approaching my position. They're scanning the planet's surface, especially the areas where we've set up geothermal taps. It's like they're interested in our infrastructure. The breakthrough came when Dr. Elena Vasquez, working with Lisa's underwater archaeology team, made a discovery in the ruins. I've found what looks like a communication array, she reported. It's ancient, but the power source is still active. I think I can establish contact. Zefgri's translator made a sound that might have been fear. Dr. Vasquez, I strongly advise against. Too late, Elena said. I'm getting a response. The communication that came through was not in any known galactic language. It was a series of tones and patterns that seemed to carry meaning beyond words. But somehow, Marcus found that he could understand it, not the specifics, but the emotion behind it. Loneliness, recognition, hope. Hello, children of Earth, the voice said, now speaking in perfect human English. We have been waiting for you to remember. Marcus exchanged glances with Zefgri. Remember what? Who you are, the voice replied. Who we all were, before the galaxy became safe. The story that unfolded over the next several hours changed. Everything Marcus thought he knew about human history. The voice belonged to Captain Kara Thorne of the deep space vessel Endurance. She was human. But she was also over 15,000 years old. My ship has been in deep space for 73,000 years, Kara explained. We were part of the evacuation fleet when the change began. What change? Lisa asked. The galaxy was different then, Kara said. Harsher, more dangerous. Most worlds were what you now call Deathworlds. Life was tough, but it made us strong. Humans and dozens of other species like us had built an empire that spanned half the galaxy. Marcus sat down heavily. What happened to it? The builders came, Kara said. We never learned who they were or where they came from. They arrived with technology that could change planets, make them safer, reduce gravity, filter radiation, stabilize weather patterns. They said they were helping us. Zefgri made that fear sound again. The Council ancestors, he whispered. The oldest records speak of builders who gave us the paradise worlds. The builders offered to transform every world we lived on, Kara continued. Make them safe and comfortable. Most species accepted. They wanted an easier life for their children. But some of us realized what was really happening. Which was? Captain Stone asked. The builders weren't just changing planets. They were changing the species that lived on them, making them weaker, more dependent on technology, less able to survive without artificial support. Within a few generations, the strong species became soft. Within a few centuries, they couldn't survive anywhere but their modified paradise worlds. Marcus thought about the Xenorons in their environmental suits, afraid of Earth's gentle atmosphere. They were domesticated, exactly, Kara said, like pets. Safe, comfortable, and completely dependent on their owners. The builders created a galaxy full of species that could never challenge them or survive without their technology. Lisa leaned forward. But some of you escaped. Hundreds of ships, carrying millions of people from dozens of species, Kara confirmed. We fled to the edges of the galaxy, to places the builders couldn't reach easily. We've been out there ever since, waiting for the galaxy to remember what it used to be. And now? Marcus asked. Now we've found you, Kara said. Humans who never underwent the change. Humans who still carry the strength of the old galaxy. You're proof that the builders didn't win completely. Captain Stone's voice cut through the conversation. Kara, I'm reading massive power signatures from your fleet. What are you planning? Nothing aggressive, Kara assured him. But the builders are still out there. They've been dormant for thousands of years, but reports of strong humans spreading through the galaxy will wake them up. We need to be ready. Zefgri spoke for the first time in several minutes. Captain Thorne, the current galactic civilization numbers in the trillions. We cannot simply abandon our worlds and flee as your ancestors did. We're not asking you to, Kara replied. We're asking you to choose. Stay in your safe artificial paradise and hope the builders remain asleep. Or join us in reclaiming the galaxy that should have been. The silence that followed lasted for almost an hour. Marcus used the time to think about everything he had learned. Humanity wasn't an anomaly. They were survivors. The last free children of a galaxy that had chosen safety over strength. Finally, Admiral Ross's voice came through from Earth. Captain Thorne, this is Admiral Janet Ross, Earth Defense Command. We've been monitoring your conversation. The Global Council has reached a decision. We're listening, Kara said. Earth accepts your proposal, Admiral Ross announced. We'll work with your people to prepare for whatever's coming. But we have conditions. Name them. First, we protect the current galactic civilizations. Whatever the builders did to them, it's not their fault. Second, we do this gradually. No sudden changes that will cause panic or chaos. Third, we share everything. Technology, knowledge, history, no more secrets. Kara was quiet for a moment. Agreed. But Admiral, you need to understand what you're committing to. The builders won't allow strong species to exist freely. When they realize what's happening, they'll come to stop us. Then we'll be ready for them, Admiral Ross said firmly. Over the following weeks, the 3 human colony worlds became training centers. Ships from Kara's fleet landed, bringing technologies and knowledge that had been preserved for thousands of years. They taught humans how to modify themselves to survive in even harsher environments. How to build ships that could travel to the galaxy's most dangerous regions. How to fight enemies that controlled the fundamental forces of nature. But most importantly, they taught humans about the galaxy that had been lost. Worlds where storms raged for centuries, where gravity could crush mountains, where radiation carved sculptures in solid rock. Worlds that were dangerous beyond imagination, but also beautiful beyond description. Marcus stood on Zarian Prime's new observation platform, watching human and alien engineers work together to build something that had never existed before. A ship designed not to protect its crew from hostile environments, but to take them deeper into danger than anyone had gone before. Lisa joined him, carrying reports from the archaeological teams on all 3 worlds. We've found 47 more ruin sites, she said. All of them show the same pattern. Advanced civilizations that thrived in conditions the current galaxy can't even imagine. Any word from the Council? Marcus asked. Lisa smiled. Official. Silence. Complete, absolute silence. Zefgri says they're still processing everything they've learned. But unofficially, some of the younger species are asking to join the colony programs. Marcus nodded. Change was coming to the galaxy, whether the old powers wanted it or not. The question was whether it would come peacefully or through conflict. In the distance, one of Kara's ships lifted off, heading for the outer rim of the galaxy. It carried volunteers from a dozen species, all heading for worlds that had been abandoned, as too dangerous to inhabit. Soon, those worlds would have life again. Strong life that could survive anything the universe threw at it.